Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the August meeting of the Greencastle Common Council. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, welcome everyone. Linda, can you call the roll, please?
Councilor Adam Cohen.
Here.
Councilor Stacy Langdon. Here. Councilor Steve Fields.
Here.
Councilor Tyler Wade. Councilor Mark Hammer.
Here.
Councilor Gary Lemon.
Here.
And Councilor Dave Murray.
Here.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is public petitions and comments for any business related to anything that is not already on the agenda. We have a very short agenda this evening, so if anybody has anything to bring forward. Hearing none, we'll move on to special requests. The first is street closure request for the Putnam County Mural Project. Eric, if you'd come forward. Eric Freeman from the Tourism Office is representing the project this evening.
Hi.
Hi.
We request to close Veterans Memorial Highway from 231 west to Putnamville Street, which is the first street that comes back, on Sunday, the 29th of September, from 3:30 to 9 p.m. That includes our setup and our teardown time, so that's the total time, for an unveiling of the mural that's going to go on the silos. We had intended to do this in the park behind, and learned that the Lieutenant Governor was coming with one of the heads of her departments who helped fund the mural, and so we decided if we're going to do a grand opening, it probably does make sense to do it in front of the mural as opposed to kind of around the back. So we'll have music, some kids' activities from Big Bounce Funhouse, a stage. We'll do the setup, like I say, starting at 3:30. The event will be 5 to 8. Maybe 5 to 7. It kind of depends. It'll end when it ends, but we'll definitely have everything down and out by 9 o'clock.
I would like to say we did have a meeting earlier this week to review the logistics with the fire department, street department, police department, and I think we've got everything worked out to everybody's satisfaction and the safety of the public, and as also directing truck traffic around. Usually Sunday's a light day, and we did check with Bootsy, and they even though they sometimes start their shipping Sunday evening, they said it's probably be pretty light. So
we have closed Veterans Highway before. We did it for a Veterans event, I think on Flag Day or Veterans Day, a number of years ago.
Right.
So we have done it. Not often, but we do it.
Eric, is it rain or shine?
Eric's comments okay?
It
seems kind of quiet.
Should I talk into this? Is this on?
Yeah, it's on.
No?
Should be.
It's
It is?
recording.
Okay, sorry. It is not rain or shine, no. The rain date is the following Sunday. We purposefully picked a Sunday thinking that'd be the Sunday evening kind of slowest traffic time. The artists will be there, though, on this date. The artists wouldn't be there the following Sunday. This really is sort of the wrap, final touches of the mural day.
Make a motion that we close it for the
we have a
dedication.
motion and a second to approve the closure request. Any further questions or discussion?
Putnamville Street will remain open as well as 231, obviously, too. But, yeah, we're just closing it between those.
That's right,
Yeah,
yes.
without closing the north-south streets. Okay.
Any additional questions? Hearing none?
All your work on it. It looks
Yeah, it's great to-
fabulous.
It's great to
Yeah,
get
it's
the
very
money.
exciting.
Yeah. It's,
Hearing none, please signify your approval by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Great, thanks, Eric. We'll
Thank
get
you,
you
guys.
the
Appreciate
paperwork. Okay, we have two additional street closure requests from DePaul University and Putnam Pride. Matt Atohai, I hope I pronounced that correctly. Sorry if I scrambled it. Matt, please step forward and make your request.
Sure. So it's a street closure and noise ordinance request. And the street closure request, so I'm the director of the Center for Diversity and Inclusion on campus, and then I'm also a frequent active member of the Putnam Pride Initiative, which is the Pride Initiative for Putnam County. And so the hope was to do a Pride Festival that was kind of like a First Friday, so it'd be a family-friendly festival on Indiana Street, just between Washington and I think that's Walnut. And so we have secured War Radio as a band that would be performing. We're working with DePaul to provide some of the pieces of like stage and power requirements. I've reached out to all of the businesses on that street just to kind of get their consent. I was hoping to get all their consent before this meeting, but I've left messages with all of those folks. We'll likely be doing a big bounce rental as well, and then we'll have some tabling from different Pride organizations as well as different agencies that support LGBTQI plus communities, as well as ideally faith-based organizations here in Putnam County that are supportive of the LGBTQI plus population. And then we'll be working with our student populations to figure out what kind of like face painting and other like family-friendly type activities we can provide folks who visit.
So to be clear, this is wide open to the public.
Yeah, this is the students were hopeful, so this is an evolution of the Pride that they had been doing. DePride had always been on campus on Bowman Park. And then the last time that they had hosted it, we had brought in a couple of agencies as well as Putnam Pride Initiative. And so the students are really interested in actually engaging the community in the ways that the community already engages one another. First Friday being kind of the model that they're hoping to replicate, but in a smaller fashion. And so that's why we are moving closer to the square to kind of engage the community in that way. And so Putnam Pride Initiative has been really helpful in kind of connecting us with different connections that they have, both regionally as well as in the state. And our
Excuse me,
students will-
what's the date of this?
Oh,
again?
yeah, sorry. September 27th is a Friday. And so that was the hope. Because I didn't think that was going to be in conflict with the traditional First Fridays or the second Saturdays we do. So that was the intention.
You said it's family friendly, but I just want to make sure, are you going to have alcohol at the event?
So at this point, there is no plan on having alcohol. I have reached out to Morris to get their consent.
If you do, then we'll have a whole host of requirements for you.
Yes, I would imagine so, yeah.
And so that would be one of the conditions of approval. If you do,
Okay.
then I'll have a contract for you to sign. And so one of your groups, either through DePaul or through the Putnam Pride Initiative, one of you will have to
Okay.
sign, being responsible for for any liability.
Okay.
And then also, you'll have to go through excise, you'll have to have approval through our police department. Those are just all the excise rules. You'll have a
It's
whole
much easier.
To not have alcohol is what it sounds like.
People can go indoors, people can go
Sure.
in the tap house and drink. It's just, you can't figure it out.
Not have it out in the street, yeah. I think, given that it's going to be a student event, I think I have the inclination that it won't be, and like alcohol won't be the central focus of it, and given the amount of space that we're gonna be occupying, I think we will be pretty okay with a non-alcoholic event, and should folks choose to indulge, they are more than welcome to, and the businesses that are gonna be neighboring that. We haven't really crossed that bridge, only because I think we were trying to figure out if we could even get the street
Well, I'll
closed.
make a
so,
motion
yeah.
to do that. I mean, we've closed the street all the time. I'll put a request in,
Sure.
not because of this event, it's a question I'm going to bring up to Tom in a minute, that you consider, in light of what's going on in the world, having paying either a DePaul officer or a Greencastle officer or two to be there.
Yeah. I will work with campus safety to figure out what we can do, and then I'll work with the local municipalities to figure out what kind of fees are there. But we have some
It's
funds
going to be a
allocated.
question that's coming up in a minute.
Sure.
for all events.
I think,
Sure. Yeah. No. That, I mean,
We'll talk
that is
about
the
that
reality of the world we live in. So I think the safety is definitely something that I've regularly been thinking about.
I second. Adams.
We have a motion and a second to approve the street closure, do you want to simultaneously approve the noise waiver as well?
Yes.
or-
No rain date?
No.
It doesn't rain in September. It doesn't rain much in August.
Yep, exactly.
All right, we got a motion and a second, no rain date.
Do you want to approve
Yeah.
both? Okay,
Yes.
so the motion and second is to approve both the street closure and the noise waiver?
Yes.
Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, please signify your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, we'll get you paperwork, and as Lori said, you may need to file some additional information if you choose to pursue that.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so
Great,
much.
thank you very much.
Take care, y'all.
Okay, next is departmental reports. And I did, the question came up last month about water loss, so Oscar and Ed are here to maybe give a few words on where we are with that. If I could call the utility team up to start.
As they're making their way up, I'll just thank Oscar. I got a call from a resident panicked over the weekend about a sinkhole in her backyard, and I think it was Saturday afternoon or something. He was out there and helped her out, and then Brad took care of it on Monday. So thank you very much for helping her.
No problem.
So the team has been working on some of the water loss numbers, so I've asked them on your behalf to come and say a few words about that. Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Well, for starters, Ed's the real expert on the water, so
Yeah.
I asked him to come with me here to help with
We've
this.
done a number of things to find this unaccountable water. I've asked Matt Kingery and Nick Clark, which works for Midwest Meter, Badger, to take a look at it, and they have. They've done a audit number of meters, an audit of large meters, a field audit that consisted of myself and Matt to go out and check the dial and the test circle to see if they match. Miscellaneous reports, comparisons of the readings, and Melanie has been talking to Encode, which Encode reported back that everything was okay. Now, I know it's dropped from 20% from May down to 10.4 for June. July, we don't have the numbers yet. I won't get those numbers back until the 26th or so. And we'll take another look at that. If it's up, we'll be out, as we normally do. If we have a high percentage, we'll go out and drive the streets, water lines, looking, and that comes from my department and Oscar's too, so.
Do you know how our water loss number, I mean, every city has water loss, that's given. Is there like a national norm? Is there an acceptable number for a city our size? What should we be looking for?
For the unaccountable,
Yes.
the percentage?
Yeah.
Between 15 and 20%.
That's normal for a city our
Yeah.
size,
Yeah.
that you're flushing that much water away. That's a lot.
So we didn't do anything differently between May and June, but for some reason it dropped.
It's down, yeah.
Do you think, I talked with Melanie this afternoon, was in checking the claims. She wondered, there's no cause and effect relationship established, but the changeover in the software that somehow, that could be a source of this issue?
It's a possibility, yeah.
Okay.
But they've looked at it, they've been looking at it since August of last year, when we switched over. Where it's high percentage then, and then all of a sudden, just like for June, it's dropped. No rhyme or reason. But be assured, we're still looking. Not every month.
And we appreciate that. So we wait another month and see what happens.
Wait till the end of this
additional
month,
read
and
on
if
it.
you would like, we could email you the loss and see what it is. Pardon?
Yeah, well, what would be our next step if it's still high? What would be the next?
Well, they're always looking for inflow and infiltration
Yeah.
and fixing leaks and fixing meters and.
I know
And
you guys are working on it, I just don't know what else we can do to help.
they're
them
out
find it.
changing some big meters now. The 3 and 4 inch are on a 5-year cycle. So they've got 4 more 4-inch to change for this year. And they'll be doing that end of the month or first of next month.
We're not seeing anything any higher at the wastewater plant either. It's getting into the sewer. Nothing any different there.
Just to demonstrate how difficult some of these leaks are to find, back when Phoenix Closures came to town, that was a really dry summer, and they were doing work on the railroad siding for them, and we kept noticing a wet spot, and we couldn't figure out, we thought, well, maybe there's a spring there, because there's some really, really deep drainage under the main line of the railroad. Well, it hadn't rained, it was still a problem, and so ended up tracing it back, and we found there was a leak in the water line that goes below the bridge there, and it showed up several hundred feet down the road to the south, and I don't think we know how long it had been leaking, but
No.
the fact that it was dry, we were able to find it. Then we had, a couple years ago on Arlington, a guy called us and his backyard wouldn't dry out, and couldn't find anything in his yard that was leaking. But several houses north on Arlington, north of Shadowlawn, there was a water line leak, and it was traveling underground and surfacing several houses to the north. So, I know these guys are out looking for leaks all the time, and, when they surface, we had a small one on Anderson Street the other day, and it was fixed within a day of reporting it, and, but the other thing is with our limestone, and the fact that in some areas we have water lines and essentially stone trenches, if a water line or even a sewer line is leaking in one place, it might not show up where it would be expected. So sometimes it's just a lot of detective work too.
Sure. And I talked with Melanie this afternoon. I don't want to embarrass anybody publicly tonight, but there have been folks who've hooked up to a hydrant and taken money off, or taken water off of that, to meet their own personal needs as an individual or an organization. And it's one of those things we just have to be vigilant about, that, we're not about providing free water to various.
No, we send them to the prosecutor, is
Right.
what happens, and we've done that a number of times.
Stealing.
Yeah, it is, it's theft.
It's
Yeah.
theft, yeah.
And we do make hydrant meters available for construction projects and things like that, and we have a good number of people that come in and get those.
Most of them do, apparently. Yeah. Thanks for looking into this. We'll see
You're
what
welcome.
next month brings.
Yeah, we'll be
Okay.
anxious to see what next month.
All right.
Hopefully the numbers are down again, or at least still.
Thanks, gentlemen. Okay, any other department heads want to come up? And
I was gonna ask Tom if he wanted to.
Tom, do you want to come up?
I just wanted Tom to kind of talk for a minute about, it's been a rough couple days in our country, and what we have going on are things like First Fridays and stuff like that, what type of foot patrols and presence we have at public events.
So with the First Friday events, we have met with early in the year before they started. Is it Mike Richmond? Is that the gentleman's name? So he met with Assistant Chief Brian Hopkins and I to work out security for those events. And so they have come up with a way to fund 2 officers that are off duty for the city that night, and so we try to staff it with 2 officers through their funding. And then, of course, the officers that are working that night, they pop in and walk around. And so we do have officers on site providing security, walking around on foot. I'll also let the council know that Assistant Chief Hopkins and I have been working with Gail Smith. We got Music Fest coming up, and it's going to be a big one. I think she said it's her 10th anniversary, I believe, of this event. So it's going to be 2 days. It's going to be Friday evening and then Saturday. So we will have several officers working security throughout the event, both Friday night, one staying actually overnight, staying on foot in a car there downtown square watching the equipment that will be left out overnight. And then there'll be multiple officers working Saturday for that event. And then when you talk about other events like sporting events and stuff, we work with the Greencastle High School. We provide security for their football games and basketball games. We work with the athletic department. They hire officers off duty to work those events. So we know it's important to be there. Then plus the officers that are on duty for the city, when they're not busy, they stop in and view the sport too and be a police presence.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Tom?
I've got one that's, it's unrelated to soft targets or whatever. It was the only complaint I heard from the 4-H Fair Parade was about, can we block the streets off later than what we did this year? I mean, people were having trouble getting home from church.
We can talk about that with the parade committee. I know that's their request when we shut the streets off.
At 11:30?
Yes, because
most churches don't get out till noon around here.
And I understand that, but due to how they line things up, they requested, but we can work with them and try to get it later next year. Also in regards to, and I don't know if you've received any complaints, we have received several complaints in regards to the conduct of the Mustangs through the fair parade, and we've worked with that. I've actually personally spoke with the gentleman in charge of the Mustangs, and so hopefully that won't happen next year if they're allowed to be in the parade.
That was a disaster waiting to happen.
That was an extreme safety and security issue that we had. Absolutely.
They were smoking their tires.
Yeah, they were.
Most of them are still there. So if you would go to Dairy Castle and come west, you can see the burnout marks, and there's several, and some of them are long, 15, 20 feet long. I will tell you that we had, in regards to outdoor events, I will tell you that we had a great night for National Night Out. There was a threat of rain first thing in the morning. We thought we were going to have to cancel, but we kept on watching the weather, and it kept on getting less and less, and so Linda and I agreed to go ahead and go for it. And we had a great night. It was warm, but it always is in August. But I think we had... we don't have totals on numbers yet. We all know that the crowd was down, and I think we had some conflicts with a couple schools having Meet the Parents Night. So that's something that we're definitely going to have to look into next year if we can change the date. Nothing's set in stone yet, but we did have a good night. A lot of emergency services folks are out there. A lot of free food provided, and just overall, it was a great event. No catastrophes, no issues that I'm aware of. Had a lot of good compliments on it.
Did hear we had some leftover backpacks that are being distributed to the 4 school districts in the county.
We did have some backpacks left over that are currently, at this point in time, being stored at the Putnam County Comprehensive Services, and some of the Putnam County Youth Development Board is reaching out to the schools to let them know that we have extra backpacks. If there's kids in their schools that need them, then we'll make sure that they get them.
Thank you for everything.
Thank you. Any other questions? I have one question. We approved the street closure on September the 27th, but we never heard what's the times on that. Can you tell us that, please?
Yes. It is 3 p.m. to 11.
Okay, thank you.
In the mail, that's right.
And they'll be in your later.
All right, thank you.
We got it in our emails.
Okay, Rod's got a couple things.
There's a surprise.
Good evening, everybody. I would like to start my report with a couple of thank yous. I want to thank the Greencastle Police Department, Tom Sutherland and Linda Merkel with the Family and Youth Development Commission, is that right? All right. For choosing Roban Park for the National Night Out celebration, it was another, attendance was down, but it ended up being a beautiful night to have a season end party in the park. So, and we enjoyed having everybody at the swimming pool following the event. I also want to thank the estate, family, and friends of Stephanie Hunter, who graciously donated a double web crawler, playground climber, to the playground at Big Walnut Sports Park. We dedicated it at the park board meeting last week, and it's already proven to be a favorite one of the kids at the playground. But we just want to thank everybody for thinking of Big Walnut Sports Park and the Park and Recreation Department for that. There are some other things in my report. Again, beautiful night for National Night Out. We have had some visitors to the Aquatic Center, but we borrowed some cameras from the Greencastle Police Department, and sure enough, nobody has shown up again. I guess you spread the word the right way and they take care of themselves. So, and then just some programs coming up. We have a Brickmania program on September 19th, the Brickmania Jolly Roger. We have a Build and Learn Bird Workshop where we're building bird houses for kids to take home, or if they want to donate to the park department. And then our annual Glow Throw Disc Golf Tournament has been scheduled for Saturday, September 28th at 4 p.m. And that'll be held at Big Walnut Sports Park. And again, that's the one where we take a glow in the dark theme, and we play after dark through the woods and through Big Walnut Sports Park and that. And it's kind of a neat event to I guess end the summer, so and get ready for fall.
Rod, you might mention how long the splash park's going to be
Yes.
open, because we've had several questions about that.
Right. Okay. So we all know that the Greencastle Aquatic Center's last day for humans is Sunday, August 11th. We will hold Soggy Doggy Day on Tuesday, August 13th. I'm thinking ahead already. But the splash park at this time is down. We're having problems with the ultraviolet light. State of Indiana says that if you recirculate your water in a facility like this, you have to have a UV light on it. We have had a person come in today to look at it. We're hoping to have parts tomorrow, and hopefully be up and running by this weekend, if not by the time we close the Greencastle Aquatic Center. Okay. But right now it is, we're still circulating the chlorinated water. We're still filtering the way we're supposed to. However, Indiana states we have to have a UV system, and it's got to be operational. So, but we're hoping to have that fixed hopefully by the weekend. Okay. And then the splash park, as soon as the Greencastle Aquatic Center closes, I think last year we were open till the first weekend in October, if I remember right. Okay, we'll stay open as long as we get consistent 70-degree weather. All right. Any questions?
We've had a few comments about why we closed the pool early, and quite frankly, the staff goes back to school and we don't have any lifeguards anymore.
Right.
Steve has responded to those on behalf of the parks. So I'll put the call out that if there's any retired senior citizens out there that have their life-saving certifications that would like to join us next summer, we'll be more than happy to have you submit an application to join us. But literally, when the kids go back to school, and most of these kids are involved in athletics or other after-school activities, we don't have any lifeguards left.
And we have so many young adults in the community that don't seem to understand that for some reason, and I don't know why. It's very simple. They've got to remember back to when they were in school, and I'm sorry, but even back then, they had to close when you didn't have lifeguards.
Right, and right now, a majority, I'm going to say almost 95% of our lifeguards are multi-sport athletes, and with fall having as many sports as they do in the school system, tonight we opened with 4. Yesterday we had 3, which is fine. You just don't get to go down the water slide anytime you want. You wait till the 10-minute break, and then that's when we open that up.
And if I remember right, a few years back, you tried even recruiting some DePauw University students and
Correct.
without any success.
Correct. And the problem we have, we could do that, but the DePauw students don't come on. The earlier ones, the early sports athletes will come on this Sunday. Everybody else comes a week later, and that's 2 weeks without lifeguards.
Right.
So, yeah, all of our kids are already in school, and if anybody wants to put a change to it, sorry, contact your school system and ask them to start Labor Day weekend like they did when we were kids, okay? If
Or
they want to
state
enjoy
legislature.
that. Yeah, so, yep. But anyway, so that's the problems we have. They're just multi-sport athletes, and we don't have lifeguards.
But in all seriousness, if there are retired adults that would be available, if they would be willing to step forward, we may be able to work something out where we could potentially add some hours in the evenings to the pool, so.
And that would be anybody who's not in high school or college, so yeah, that'd be fine. All right, any other questions? All
Thanks,
right.
Rod.
Yep, thank you.
Any other department heads want to step forward?
Oh, bring up something on, from the park board. Joanna Muncy was sworn in as our new park board, member at the last meeting, and, she's new to the city team, and I think it's a great addition.
But she's been involved with the park department for years. She was actually one of the people at Rid Path where she taught who started the program about when they brought kids into the park at the tail end of the year and doing field trips through the park. So she's familiar with it, and she'll be replacing Beva Miller, who was another great addition to our park board, and I think Joanna will do the same thing. Okay. But thank you, Steve, thank you.
I've got a question for our city planner and a public service announcement perhaps here.
Okay. Scott?
Scott, in looking at the Plan Commission meeting, 33 lots of Whispering Winds and recommended approval with waivers of temporary dead-end street, 1,100 feet long cul-de-sac, 4 feet wide sidewalks, rolled curb and gutters, and deferred payment of performance surety. That seems like an awful lot of waivers, or am I just naive?
Well, the construction waivers, sidewalks, curbs, we're actually continuing the design standard from the earlier sections, rather than have a kind of a jarring transition to a different style or width. It was better to continue that, and there will be no further lots of this development, so that will pretty well finish it off. There are also design needs to accommodate a dead-end short section of street that will allow for the potential to create additional lots in another area if that were ever to be of that property owner's interest to develop. The cul-de-sac was needed because there are some terrain issues in that general area that made it very awkward to try to continue the street through that area, but it did lead to a longer than allowed cul-de-sac. So we reviewed that with our fire safety department, with utilities, and it was determined that this would not create a physical problem in this area.
So we're extending things that were done for the original plat?
Correct, to be able to finish this out.
Yeah. The other thing is, and this is brand new to me, learned that Japanese barberry creates an environment ideal for mice that carry ticks that carry Lyme disease. Plus, the bush creates a situation where soils are more likely to erode during rains. This leads to our #1 pollutant. Who would have thought a Japanese barberry was causing that kind of trouble? Can you elaborate on that in case there are people out there planning to plant that?
Well, I appreciate that. I have learned more and more talking to John Garner and attending sessions on stormwater. Essentially, a lot of the landscape material that we've all grown very accustomed to from big box retailers have created some environments that actually push out, destroy, or make it impossible to have other landscape native plants grow, and they then begin to create an environment or a culture where pests like ticks, white-footed Mice really thrive in those environments because there's no other competition. So if we can pay a little more attention to trying to plant native Indiana, native Midwest plants, when possible, if your landscaping is going bad, remove some of those plants that have been deemed by the state to be invasive, like barberry, Asian honeysuckle, even my wife's favorite, burning bush. We've been slowly pruning those back and replacing those with native Indiana plants because it's simply better for the soil, and the number one pollutant, especially for urban areas in stormwater, is, anybody want to say it? Sediment. Sediment. Our soil erodes, goes into the stormwater system, goes straight to the rivers, and the joke I've learned is our best Indiana farm ground is basically in New Orleans, just going down the rivers. So,
Thanks for clarifying.
We're out to sea.
DNR,
or further out.
DNR has been starting to put a push on these invasive species issues and starting to heighten awareness. Earlier this spring, they did some work with Walmart to remove some invasive species that Walmart was selling as ornamental plants and that were kind of a problem here in Indiana. So Walmart removed those from their shelves. So,
Dave, as far as the, what I recall from the meeting, as far as the cul-de-sac, the school buses can turn around in there, and the fire department said if the school bus can turn around, our trucks can easily turn around. So.
Did I misunderstand you on something about the width of the sidewalks varying?
No, we will be, in this subdivision, we'll be making them consistent, but it is slightly narrower than our current standards do require. So a new, from the get-go subdivision would have slightly wider sidewalks. But this was allowed because the whole development started back in the 90s, I think.
I believe so.
The front section, yeah.
The Woods Edge.
Okay.
Original Woods Edge.
Forgot about that.
They were 4 foot then, and they used the rolled curbs as opposed to the box or squared off curbs.
Right.
Thank you.
okay, thanks, Scott.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to step forward? Any other questions for any of our other department heads? Hearing none, department heads are released for the evening. Now that the sun has returned, enjoy the rest of the evening. We have several reports. We currently have a vacancy on the cemetery board. If anybody, I have one candidate who's expressed an interest. I had another candidate step forward, but then she called me today and said she was unable to do it because of something else that has come up and would not allow her to participate at this time. But if anybody has any thoughts in terms of folks that might like to serve on the cemetery board, let me know. Or if anybody out there in the public has an interest, let us know. Likewise, for the Human Relations Board, we have a couple people who have expressed interest. And if people are interested in that board, again, please let us know. We'll get a press release out on that. Basically, we just ask people to submit a letter and a copy of the resume and some information on the skills that they would like to bring to the board. I'd like to reiterate Tom's appreciation for all the supporters of National Night Out. Interestingly, we have a wide range of businesses, mostly local, which we are much appreciative of their efforts. We also had one of the consulting firms, KBSO, that is working with DePaul, donated a substantial amount of school supplies to help stuff the backpacks.
Boxes and boxes. I was there when they dropped them off, and I thought that was pretty impressive, and they quietly did it.
Yeah,
I
they
mean,
not really asked for a lot of publicity, but it just shows that, in addition to our own people that care about the community, it's nice to have some folks that also from the outside appreciate what we're doing. Continue to work on the Y project. will be, Rob York is going to be chairing a fundraising committee, and there'll be a meeting coming up for that, to get that started later this month. Continue to work on the details of the agreements, and also we had a pretty good meeting here a couple weeks ago to go over the conceptual design, and made some revisions to that, so we're waiting for those to come back from the architect. Campus Link Trail, we're doing the financial closeout on that project, and we're having a special Board of Works meeting tomorrow to award the bid for street repaving, but we're also going to consider the two change orders for that project that will close the project out. Rod's already talked about pool. We have received our bids for street projects. We had one bidder, Wabash Valley Asphalt. We had a couple of people interested. One bidder called us at the last minute and said they had just received a big NDOT job and said they just wouldn't have the staff to do it, so they declined to bid. We'll be doing Deerfield Drive, Quail Ridge Drive, Ridgeland Road, basically that section that's really rough from the condos over to Round Barn Road, Berry Street, the Sherwood neighborhood, all the streets in Sherwood, including some storm drainage improvement, part of Elizabeth Street, and Woodhaven Drive. We'll also be putting asphalt on most of the streets in the cemetery, and then also redoing some work at the police department parking lot to bring it in compliance with ADA requirements. So,
Is Arlington Street not on there?
I'm sorry?
Arlington? I noticed there's a paving
Arlington
stakes.
is not. It is
There-
not, it is not. We'll be doing some sidewalks on Arlington, but the pavement is not bad enough to,
Well, there's there are paving stakes along there. Brand
it's
new.
probably for the sidewalks,
Okay, all right.
because they just started the other day over there. So.
Yeah.
We talked about Whispering Winds. Another project that's coming up, people who have been driving on US 231 have noticed that there's now markings on the pavement for repair of the, some of our major chuck holes along that route. NDOT informed me today that there's a press release going to be coming out on this as well from NDOT, that work will begin August 19th and be complete by October 18th. Work will occur from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m., so they'll be working at night. Traffic will be maintained, but they feel that, you know, the traffic loads are much less at night, so hopefully they'll be fixing that. We have received a revised schedule from our contractor on Indianapolis Road. They're trying to get all of the work done in the eastbound lane as much as possible before switching over. They expect to be done in October. So they'll be paving, they'll be scheduled to put asphalt down tomorrow. I don't know if the rain we had today will impact that. I doubt it, but it looked like they were getting ready. As the public can see, we've got probably 75–80% of the sidewalk in. There is a gap in the sidewalk. They're going to be putting some retaining wall in, so that'll probably go in after the retaining wall is in. We do, once again, appreciate everyone's patience.
What's the completion date now? Again?
End of October.
Yeah, okay.
Sidewalks on just one side, right?
Sidewalk on both sides.
Okay, I thought so.
Sidewalk on both sides. So,
Good.
yeah. In fact, several of the property owners along the route, when we told them we were putting sidewalk in, they donated the right of way to the city. Because they agreed about the importance of the project. Questions?
So, well, again, the US 231, they're making those boxes.
Spot repairs
They're gonna
now.
spot repairs, and then they're gonna resurface the entire thing?
I don't believe so. That's what I was originally thinking, they were gonna do that, but what I received today said it was just gonna be spot repairs, but I talked to the public relations person, I said, could you check on that? And I haven't heard back yet. so it may be explained in the press release, because she was working on the press release with the engineering staff and stuff.
Wasn't the originally
That
what
was-
you were told, like a 1-inch code?
Yeah, that
2-inch
was the,
code?
that was the original impression that I had when they bid it the first time, but the bids came back exceeding the available funds, so they may have cut back some of it. So I'll try to find out more. She was kind of working on it as we talked this afternoon.
I'm
checking
just
it.
concerned that we'll have more chuck holes in the old pavement pop up next year.
I have no doubt we will, just because
Yeah.
the road just needs a lot of attention.
Oh, it needs a lot of attention.
It looked
We'll
to me
get
like,
that in 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it looked to me like spot repairs, because there was somebody out there with measuring stuff, and a guy was writing down, okay, we'll do this, and then we'll do this. It does not look like a comprehensive overlay.
I'm sure if we were willing to donate, which we don't have the money, they'd do more, but it's their road, so.
Yeah.
you know,
It sure gives the city a black eye, though.
Yeah, I know, not,
There's nothing we can do about it, I realize, but other than complain to NDOT and try to get them to do a little bit more. Yeah. So,
Mayor, can you comment on your series of visits with other YMCA's and what implication that has for the Y Project Community Center?
Oh, sure.
Obviously, there's some things that you learned from that that
Yeah.
are probably going to affect the design.
we did visit the Y in Lafayette, which has both a Y component and a medical component. And we also visited the Ursay Y in Indianapolis. And as a result of that and ongoing discussions with the hospital, the thought is to shift so that they share a common entrance, because there's some benefits of doing that. So there'll be, and then the interface between the medical section and the Y section to transition people from hospital care to exercise programs at the Y, that interface has changed some. So that'll be reflected in the design revisions, so.
and my understanding is that you're trying to get at least one more basketball court.
We are looking at setting it up so that our original thought was to do 2 basketball courts, and again, as we've learned more and the Y has further refined their programming, we're going to try to shoot for 3 middle school sized courts. That way we can run indoor soccer on a couple courts and still have a basketball court available, or 1 court of pickleball and 2 courts of basketball. 3 courts gives the Y a bit more flexibility in how they can program that space. So, for example, it takes about 2 basketball courts to run indoor soccer. And if you only have 2 courts, then it's either indoor soccer or nothing else. So that's the other kind of major change we've looked at.
And that can be done without adding a bigger footprint.
It'll add several thousand square feet, but we're also looking to see if we can pull in some other things too.
And moving some other things, so it won't add as much.
Okay.
So,
All right.
okay. Linda?
Basically, our main thing right now is working on the budget. The budget committee did meet, a couple of
Week
weeks
ago?
ago. We will be meeting again the 14th, that evening. So that is a public meeting if anybody does want to come to that. Yeah, we'll be meeting then. I did make record requests to the communities that we talked about to take a look at salaries and what they make and their benefits and things like that. And I've received some back from several of them, but I gave them till tomorrow to send them to me. So we'll have that all put together, so.
When do we have to submit the budget to the state?
We will have first reading in the next council meeting, hopefully. We'll discuss with the council if we want to have a meeting before, we have that first reading. Or we'll discuss it at the next council meeting, and then we'll have to have a special session. Because we need to have it approved and adopted by our October meeting.
Okay. I would lobby for a special session. This is really a lot of detail, and it's
Right.
in-depth, and I just think before we take a vote that we ought to be really,
Yeah, so we'll
speed on it.
have either a special session or a special session either before or after, you know, somewhere in there. So it'll kind of be what the budget committee decides.
Probably, I'm thinking it would be better to have one before our regular
That's what I was
meeting.
just gonna say.
Because that's gonna be much more discussion than there will be the second meeting. It'll be more.
Absolutely.
And if there's adjustments, we'll have some time to deal with it.
Right.
Correct.
Because if we do the special after, we're gonna run up and we might need a third special session.
Yeah, so we'll let you know when that, but we are meeting this 14th.
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Wednesday.
Wednesday. So,
The day
the
after.
14th,
The day
yeah,
after.
so.
The day after. The 14th.
But that's basically what I have. I did include a fund report in the packet, so everybody should have gotten one of those. So,
Linda, just one question, and I don't know whether, I don't think we've ever brought this up before. You've done some talking with other communities about our AV versus their AV, and where does all that stand?
So Bill and I did talk with the LGF a couple days after, or a week after the council meeting. Like we kind of discussed last time, that this is a result of things that happened in 1990s, 80s, 70s. So we're not, there's no way right now that we can get more max levy. The only thing that we can do, and I know Bill's probably gonna look into this, is to lower our, try to lower our rates so we have less effect of the property caps, because we are getting hit really hard this time. In the amount of like $624,148 is the estimate that will come out of not quite $4 million max levy. So that's severe. But if we can get AVs up, it lowers the rate, so we have less effect on property tax, less property tax caps. So I think Bill's looking into that more.
This is something corrective that would have to go through the legislature for us to get this changed, right?
Not max levies so much.
Well, I actually have a spreadsheet where I looked at our benchmark communities that we look at, and our AV is somewhat lower relative to those other communities. So, I mean, we're gonna do some additional work. We did talk to, when we had our budget meeting with DLGF, we asked, Linda and I asked a few questions, and the lady relayed some experience that some other counties had where, they tried to up the AVs fairly quickly, and the result of that was a lot of appeals, and the county assessor lost the appeals because currently the appeal process is stacked against local government.
What a surprise.
So it didn't do them any good. We're going to try to, one of the things I want to do is when they roll values, I want to take a look at these new 50 new houses that have been built to see, we can pull, we know what the number is that related to the building permit. We know what the sales number is through the sales disclosure, and then we can look at to see how they're being assessed. Now, they probably won't be assessed at the exact sale price, but let's say, I'm just going to use numbers. Let's say a house there sells for $150,000. Well, if it's only assessed for 80, then that raises the red flag. If it's assessed for probably 125, 130, 140, that's probably roughly correct. So we're trying to see if, my overall sense is that our AVs have not ramped up as quickly as property values have with the real estate market as it is. But there is a little bit of a lag in some of this as well. So it's a very complex issue. I wish there were a simple answer to it.
I'm confused. If something sells for $150,000, shouldn't the assessed value be $150,000? I thought that was the law, that market value, and what better evidence would you have than a sale.
Well, because they also, in your assessed value, include a neighborhood factor. So if no other house sold in the neighborhood and your house is the first one to sell in a couple of years, it's probably gonna be dropped a little bit.
I would think it'd be the reverse.
Well, I would,
That if a house,
I will tell you that the appraising guidelines from DLGF don't always make sense. It's like, we can have an industry invest, $10 million in a building, but it may only be assessed for $5 million because of the assessment rules that county assessor has to follow.
So it's really not fair market value.
No, it is not.
Unfair market value. Unfair market
No, it is not
value.
fair,
Okay.
it is not fair market value.
but that's what it's supposed to be, right?
It's just
That-
one more way the state puts the you-know-what to the local government.
It's also called property sales chasing, if you use the market value. So the
I
nice
have
thing,
no idea what that means.
well, basically, the state doesn't like you to go all the way to market value on properties. It's totally bizarre, so.
Once again,
Yeah, and that whole neighborhood, when you said that, that triggered, I had a client several years ago that bought a house in Bloomington, and his sale price was less than the assessed value, and I said, take that document to the, and they
Yeah.
wouldn't drop it, they said because of neighborhood, that term you just used there. It was like $25,000 more than what they paid for the house, and they wouldn't drop it. And
Now,
it's Bloomington.
now, in the
Yeah.
past, our assessor would have dropped it.
Yes, yeah,
Because if it's above the market value, they would usually drop it.
yeah.
Now, I don't know what our current assessor would do in that case, but I know in the past they've dropped them.
Yeah.
So, it's not a pretty science.
it's just the science, it doesn't help local government.
So, okay, Adam?
Oh, I think I just said all I need to say for tonight.
I have nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing I can think of, and probably afterwards.
I was gonna say something about recycling again, but I think, can we somehow explain to people what can be recycled and what can't?
We've gotten some information from the recycler. We're beginning, we put notice in our water bills this month about glass can be recycled again, and we'll be doing a press release
Okay,
too.
thank you.
And speaking
We've
of that,
been-
I did see somebody with their recycling bin just stuffed full of yard waste the other day, so.
Oh.
I mean, it was overflowing, that's why you could see it, because the lid was, a 30-degree angle.
Now, when we have new customers come in, we also give them a recycling sheet
They
and
get a list,
information
yeah.
too.
I have nothing else.
The only thing I have is the aerial fire truck. We have almost $10 million sitting in TIF. The city attorney has said that other communities are using that to buy fire equipment, trucks. If we have a similar amount coming in during 2020, and obviously the YMCA is not going to happen anytime really soon, we're a long way from a contract as far as I can tell, we're looking at $12 million. That's embarrassing to the city to have that kind of money in TIF, and I think we ought to look seriously at replacing the aerial fire truck, which has had all kinds of issues and problems. It's old.
I've already instructed, last month I instructed John to set up his committee to start that.
Terrific.
And so, that's already in the works. In fact, they had a demo out here, was it last week?
Last week.
From one of the manufacturers, so, yeah, that's already in the works. Because when John came in and told me the problems, I said, let's just get that moving so that we can get it ordered. Okay, we have, next, the approval of minutes of the regular session of July 11th, 2019.
I'll move to approve the minutes of the regular session of the July meeting.
Second. Go ahead, Stacy.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as presented. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. We next have claims.
Okay, I went through the claims, and the direct accounts payable is $298,324.34. Regular accounts payable, $163,653.56. pensions, $15,366.80, and payroll of $497,608.38 for a grand total, kept it under $1 million, $974,953.08. On the direct accounts payable, we have civil engineering for Locust Street, $22,168. Foyts? Okay, contractors, thank you, $161,232. Spikers for sidewalks, $39,389.50. Redevelopment, mainly civil, and there are a couple of ones in there, but the biggest one is civil engineering for $33,026 for a grand total of $33,130.61. Other direct accounts payable, it's our trash contract, I think, and utilities and other things are just recurring. That's totals $42,404.23 to get to your total of $298,324.34. On the regular accounts payable, boy, is it small. I printed it off. Yeah, there we go. $8,660 for 5 Alarm, which is a fire gear cleaning. There's just trying to hit some of the more unusual ones or larger ones. Joe Spiker had a couple in there for storm materials for $2,235, and then more sidewalks at $29,938. On top of the $39,389 over here on the direct accounts payable. We have the park donation fund to Play Power Farmington, which probably might be the
Spiderweb, yeah.
For $11,425.70, and it was marked for park donation fund. We also had another park donation fund to rural, maybe, recreations for $5,037.50. Maybe that has something to do with the same thing, maybe the installation of it. We have about $6,900 for public safety medical, which is our fire department physicals. $15,000 to rural transit, which is our annual donation there to the fund the rural transit throughout the county for our city residents. Spear Corporation had lots of them. That totaled about $5,000, not quite, $3,203, $279, $1163. Anyway, all but $30 of that was pool chemicals, and the other one was $30 was pool maintenance. And you also had State Chemical for another $507 for pool chemicals. And the last one I picked out was $4,665.70 Wabash Valley Asphalt for street materials. So with those that I've highlighted, I see nothing there that needs to be, and Linda responded to Adam's. I can't remember which vendor it is now, but
The bowling ball. vendor.
bowling ball something or other, and I was trying to
We
find
know
it.
it was trophies.
And it was trophies for the Rokiki run. So it was like, what are we doing with bowling? So
That's what I said.
yeah, that's right. So I would move for adoption and approval of the claims.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claims as presented. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, please signify your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
We have no old business, and I have one item of new business. It's really just information. We have been working with the Park Board on, they updated their 5-year plan. We have a bond issue that we would like to renew starting next year. Basically, no change in the tax rate or anything, and possibly use the proceeds of that, what would essentially be a reissue, to fund some improvements in the park. So at the Park Board meeting, we passed out a list of potential projects that were accumulated from all of the various plans that we have, and my intent is not to discuss these, just pass them out so that you can study them. And then we'd like to potentially schedule a joint meeting between the Park Board and the council to kind of review this and get your input. There are some evenings the week of August 19th, and I can also email these, but I'll mention them to you. We got Tuesday, August 20th, Wednesday, August 21st, or Thursday, August 22nd, and then the following week, Tuesday and Wednesday, Tuesday, August 27th, or Thursday, August 29th. And just to have a work session with the Park Board to kind of go over these. get your thoughts and things.
Do you think we could pull that in with the special session for the budget, or would that be too much? Be too much?
I imagine it's too much.
Probably be a lot.
Be a lot of meeting.
So do you want to look at dates for the
If,
council
if you,
tonight?
if you have your calendar,
I
and,
do.
and I'll also email you out, but if people don't have their calendars.
Week of 19th is better than the following week for me.
And I'll be
Week of the
gone.
19th
Week of the
is better.
19th is better?
I'll be gone on the 20th, 21st. Out of town.
Okay.
August 20th.
I'm tied up on the 20th as well.
What about the 22nd? That's a Thursday night.
This is really selfish, but it's our anniversary, and I think I'd like to stay married.
I'll save you, Dave. I'm out of town that night on.
Okay, thank you, Adam.
So we're out that week, but Stacy said that week was better than the other. Is it still possible to do the second week, the last week? No.
But you can do it without me. I mean,
We'll fill you in.
We can,
yeah, you can fill me in.
well, we can maybe meet with you individually ahead of time just to go over if you can.
What week are we talking about? The week of
Now
the,
we're down to
Fourth.
the 27th through, or the
27th
27th
or
to 29th.
29th, anybody have a preference?
Those are both open for me.
The 27th and 29th, is that what you said?
Yeah.
yeah.
Rod's got,
Can you avoid the 29th? I'll be in Branson, Missouri.
so we're down to the 27th, it looks like.
27th would work for me. Sorry.
It's
Yeah.
a Tuesday, 27th.
Okay, we'll shoot for
Going
the,
once,
Yeah,
going twice.
What time? What time? 7?
probably,
Wanna
probably
make it
7
earlier?
o'clock.
We'll make it
How
earlier
early
so
can
it
you
doesn't
have-
ruin the whole,
Or
take up the whole night. Ruin.
I was gonna say, the park board members usually have trouble getting there before 7 o'clock anyway.
Yeah, they use
Dr. John did, but he has changed some things. I think we could probably go a little bit earlier, but let me check tomorrow on that date, okay?
You want to shoot for 5:30 or 6
I'll
and
see what
we'll,
I can do, yes.
Sorry about the speed, but we need to introduce the ordinance if we're going, if you guys want to move ahead. We have a pretty aggressive schedule. We need
That's why we
to,
can't put it off till September.
We want to
Right.
make that
Yeah.
bonding, yeah.
we need to have the ordinance go to you guys in first reading in September, the first
So
ordinance.
what sources, you say there's a
It's a
bond?
it's a GO
Geo
bond.
bond for,
What, the police station
Police
and the,
station?
and City Hall?
And City Hall.
Okay.
Police station, City Hall.
could be paid off.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a
actually-
small, it's actually, well, relatively
It will be
speaking for
paid
a
off
bond, it's small.
January. And we did, when we financed back in 2012, it actually knocked a couple years.
Shortened it, yeah.
yeah, we also have a edit bond coming off in 2 years as well. So,
So we have a lot of exciting ideas.
So what time are we talking about on the 27th?
Yeah,
yeah,
Earlier?
Just gonna get with the park board.
yeah,
so just leave the 27th open. so
yeah,
it's
yeah, hold the 27th.
The evening,
Keep moving forward.
And I guess if,
or later, the whole
if for
evening.
some reason it can't be park board, can we switch it to budget? If they can't make it?
Yeah.
No, I want to be.
Oh, yeah, wait, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Do we want to set the budget meeting now, too?
Good idea.
Sounds like it's gonna be September, early September, after
Well-
Labor, right after Labor Day.
I'm gone until Wednesday of Labor Day.
Okay, so
After
we could
that,
set it
so it could be the
Rosh Hashanah 2018.
Thursday.
Thursday or the very beginning of the next week.
Thursday,
Well, but the city
Council
council will
meeting.
meet Thursday
Yeah.
that week.
Thursday's the 5th.
Right.
That's all right, I just turned double nickels that day, so that's.
That
okay.
evening works for me. How about the rest of you?
Right, Tori.
Bring you a cupcake.
There you go.
Thursday the 5th?
I can do the 5th.
Same here.
Same.
Mark,
I'll
you on
take the
board?
5th.
Yep.
Okay,
can
so
even go-
September the 5th, budget meeting,
Can we go 6 o'clock?
I can even do that. Yes, I can do that on the
or 5:30?
This
Is
is,
that too early?
I could do 5:30.
Or 5 o'clock?
We gotta eat.
I'll buy pizza. I'll bring pizza. Even for the audience that wants to show up at a budget meeting. Because they're so exciting.
numbers are good.
So
Gary's gonna talk about standard deviation.
is 5 o'clock the decided time?
Which
Would that
one?
work? That'd be
For the
great.
budget on 9, 5, and 5?
9, 5 at 5.
Okay.
And I turned 55.
Yes.
And you turn,
that day?
I do, I told you, that's
Me
my
too.
birthday.
And we'll all have to become refamiliar with the term fungible.
Yeah. So, where are we now? It was September the 5th at 5 o'clock, is that correct?
And
That's
we
right.
don't know the time for
Here.
the
Budget.
27th.
The budget meeting.
Budget.
Right.
Okay. If it doesn't get on my calendar, I will not.
And that's a public meeting.
Yep, that is a public
They
meeting.
both are.
Yeah.
They're both public meetings,
And on the 14th, are we at 5:30 that night?
yes.
Okay.
That's 14th, what,
That's
the
just for
budget.
oh,
Ready?
okay, all right, that's fine.
Say, the 5th of September?
It's budget meeting.
Budget
meeting.
meeting.
We're meeting at Woban Park that night, so the.
Yeah,
board
that,
will-
yeah, yeah.
We got everything we need done?
There being no further business, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Did you, okay, question. I got one question.
But once we make that motion,
We're done.
We're done, no.
Oh, we didn't vote on it.
Did we take something off of the agenda that I just didn't notice?
Yes, yeah, the
Yes.
parking.
Okay, all right.
We have a new
all right,
agenda.
New agenda.
New agenda.
All right, I just.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
So Mark, we're 5:30 on Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
5:30 on